What if there was zero lag between an idea in your head and making it in the physical world? Imagine being able to instantly think about something and have it be created by a computer program in the real world. If this sounds like science fiction, it's not. Technology is advancing very quickly. Let's talk about creation at the speed of thought. Let's go. I spent so many nights playing Counter-Strike with people all over the world. Where I grew up, my latency was absolute shit. 5 megabytes per second might have been the best that we had at the time. I can honestly still hear the dial tone connection of the internet and my teammates cursing me out as my character stuttered across the screen when I failed to defuse the bomb on time. In Counter-Strike, speed literally kills. Lucky for me, I still played, but if you can't see what you're doing on the screen as you're hitting the buttons, you're just not going to be able to play well. Speed is a limiting factor, not only in gameplay, but in creativity. And so the lag that I faced in Counter-Strikes reminds me of the lag that we have with creativity and the software that we use today. Recently, there were 3 newsworthy events that caught my eye. Figma being acquired by Adobe, Stable Diffusion being released, and an essay called Text as a Universal Interface written by Rune. In looking at the interview with Dylan Field, the CEO of Figma, talk about the acquisition, I ran across an old video where he pitches Figma to a venture capitalist, Daniel Gross, and he talks about what inspired him to build Figma. And he mentions a video by Brett Victor called Inventing on Principle. Let's hear it from Dylan himself.
We're really inspired by Brett Victor's talk, Inventing on Principle. And this is a talk that I think everyone should watch. It's one of the most impressive technical talks I've ever seen. But one of the things that Brett Victor said in this talk that I thought it really resonated with me was that if people cannot create, then that's a moral wrong.
Hearing it from Dylan, you can tell by the video that Dylan was really inspired by this idea of helping people create. Increasing the accessibility and speed drives what he was able to do with Figma. I took a look at the video to hear more from Brett Victor on what he actually means on inventing principle.
I've spent a lot of time over the years making creative tools, using creative tools, thinking about this a lot, and here's something I've come to believe. Creators need an immediate connection to what they're creating. So that's my principle. Creators need an immediate connection to what they create. And what I mean by that is when you're making something, if you make a change or you make a decision, you need to see the effect of that immediately. There can't be any delay.
As he goes on, he talks about his guiding principle, that creators need an immediate connection with what they're making. If there's any type of lag, like we saw in Counter-Strike, or if there's any delay in performing an action, this can break the flow that a creator has. That an idea is tiny, weak, and fragile. And if there's not this creation at the speed of thought, if we can't reduce the amount of time that it takes for us to make something with it, it can destroy the idea entirely. If you look at the history of Silicon Valley, and specifically Moore's Law, which essentially says that the speed at which we're able to do things, and specifically the number of transistors that we have are going to double every year, the speed with which we're able to do things is only getting faster and faster. Look no further than an Apple presentation talking about their latest update, and you can see that speed is the main thing that they highlight when talking about their new silicon design, the M1 and M2 chips. Speed is the core factor for everything that we do in computing. All of this which brings me to the advancements that are being done currently with AI, and specifically examples like AI art. Now we are able to take the text and the things in our heads, and with the simple click of a button, we can dream up new worlds in an instant. Previously, if you wanted to do something like this, you'd need to actually first be a good artist or find one, maybe even find a developer who's able to build these things for you. The latency and speed of that creativity goes from what might have been minutes, hours, days, months to just the click of a button. And now think of all of the different things that you can do with the different models that have come out. With GPT-3, you're able to generate prompts to quickly get a minimal viable product. You can use no-code solutions to build out a free website. If you don't know how to generate marketing copy, you can punch that into a system that gives you text recommendations that you can use. Now, what really excites me is the fact that all of these barriers to speed and accessibility are being broken down so that we are able to use the most simple interface that we know, which is text. In a really great article by Rune, Text is the Universal Interface, he says that the tools being built allow us to take a snapshot of our imagination, that we're able to build these things in the way that feels most comfortable to us, with the way that we communicate with each other, text, language. We don't have to know how to code. We don't need to do anything sophisticated. We can speak it in, type it in to existence. And you don't have to look much further than some of the statistics coming out from Figma. 65% of the users being people who are not designers, even though the tool is built for designers. You can see as Figma started to grow, the number of people that had accessibility, the speed to bring their ideas to life has grown. And I'd expect that even more and more non-designers will end up using this tool. I'll even argue, what does being a designer even mean? If everyone's able to create, what does it even mean to be a designer? Now, in the future, you could imagine how this would be applied. Speaking text to word dictation is awkward. There's a weird lag in the computation that happens in the background as you can see it trying to figure out what you're actually saying. It's not perfect, and it takes a long time to actually write what you're saying. In the future, as this advances, you can see a scenario where there's no lag at all anymore. As the systems improve, you can see a world where there's really a true no-code option, being able to connect APIs between different apps and get working in a single day, maybe even an hour, maybe even a couple of minutes. AI art will continue to advance, eventually even doing things like rendering video. You can already see this happening with certain companies that have been demonstrating what they can do on Twitter. And maybe even having digital assistants like the Google Home or Siri that are just actually smart. They're more useful than just setting timers or pulling random facts from Wikipedia, but actually understanding the context of what you're asking and things that you've said in the past. With all of these things combined, for me, these are some of the most exciting times, that our advancement in technology is truly leading to creation at the speed of thought. What once was limited to writing code, access to the internet, or the computing power of our machines all falls away. And the only limitation is what we are able to imagine. If you like these types of videos, please hit subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching. What will you build in the future?